exceptionally well on Battlefield, and I just want to see what Method has in store. If you go up against Zealots and you don't ban out this map, if you don't ban Battlefield, then you have to have a strategy where you say, okay, this is going to be the one thing how we take them down. And it starts with a Medivh ban.
Smart. Medivh just changes the way Zealots play the game.
Absolutely. I mean, after seeing those first 2 games, I am not too worried for Method. It definitely looks like they showed up to play today.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this earlier. If they did not ban BOE, they must have a plan for it. Medivh ban, I would argue, is one of the best if you're going to take Zealots to this map. So already liking where they're going with this draft.
The one thing that interested me in the first game, we talked about this at length, was actually the Vala pick. And of course, you could, in theory, still try and play around Vala here. Now, of course, the thought process that we had on the first map was very different from what you usually try to do on Battlefield of Eternity, where it's all about an arrow build and immortal race, whereas in the first game it was more so pressuring the tank line. But they are showing from map 1 that they are willing to bring some heroes in that we haven't seen in quite some time. And since they had the advantage of watching Zealots the entire time before this series happens, so gather some additional intel, they find themselves in a spot where I expect really to see something coming out during the draft where Method says, okay, this is the key how we win here and how we take them down on their best battleground.
Well, one way to start it here is get Shwimby on that Maiev. Maiev, the first pick coming in for Method. She was banned on the last map, so therefore that's why we didn't see her there. But Method making sure that we have her in her full effect. Now, thing I am questioning is that Hanzo is still up and available. Will Zealots move down that route? Because yesterday they showed more kill potential more than trying to race.
Yeah, not only is the Hanzo available, the Garrosh is as well. But they choose to go with kind of the Zealots standard generic opening here. Malfurion plays. They really like just setting up their team composition to be able to go anywhere they want from there.
And that's also the same setup that they had yesterday when they played against GD Sports on the map. So they started with the Malfurion plays and then went straight into Medivh and Uburak and Genji.
Yeah.
Now Medivh, of course, already taken away. There's normally a big part of their strat when they can execute it. But just having the Malfurion and Blaze setup is pretty strong for them. But also an early commitment to Malfurion again. I mean, it's understandable, but it takes away a bit from the advantages that Chad has been talking about yesterday when he mentioned that thanks to their willingness to play Stukov, Malfurion, Karazim, Rhaegar, that normally they can just like push down the healer pick into one of the of the later slots. That's not something that they're trying to use here because they just feel that Malfurion adds too much.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite in this game at least, where by taking the Malfurion, you're kind of putting the pressure onto Method. We saw this in the Zealots versus Liquid series as well, where Liquid kept picking Stukov, but they couldn't achieve anything with it.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what support Method ends up going with here.
Garrosh and Hanzo coming out. It's a tank play from Arcaner. Played a pretty solid Garrosh the few times that we have seen him pop him. And then you have Hanzo for that race. So Method, when it comes to this battleground, seems like they can force a fight, and they can force fights around Immortals too.
The one question that I have immediately when it comes to bans is, are we going to see Stukov banned out here? Since you have Maiev, you can go for a cage it up. The Garrosh flip alone into a silence is just such a deadly tool. Now we've seen, on the other hand, Zealots really play around that. And they did extremely well targeting Hanzo in the series of Team Liquid when there was only a Stukov support. So it feels like once again they are not really afraid of playing against the Stukov, even though there is the synergy with Garrosh and Maiev. And instead they're banning out Lucio here.
Yeah, I actually like the Lucio ban there. It's one of the supports that it's not really being played much right now, but when you pair it up with Garrosh, it achieves almost an effect similar to Medivh Garrosh, where he speeds you up, and that allows Garrosh to get to the backline, get to targets he normally would not be able to flip.
Basically what also Zealots tried to do on the first map when they had Abathar with the same setup and went into the Adrenaline speed boost on level 16, just trying to enable him to get into the backline and then go for the flip.
Yeah, exactly, except it kicks in much earlier, which is great for a battle map like Battlefield of Eternity here.
I like to counter immediately the ban against Genji, with Dragon Blade being still an option and Lucio banned out, so all of a sudden Genji becomes more of a threat, especially against Hanzo in that backline, so taken out just immediately after we've seen Lucio banned.
I mean, remember yesterday, Hasoaz, man, I still feel bad for him. Chris seemed like he had a vendetta against Hanzo, destroyed him with Genji's consistently. So Method, of course, paying attention to yesterday's matches. The immediate answer back, though, a Nubrak and Greymane. Speaking about heroes kind of older and coming back into the meta again, Greymane getting picked up a lot now for Chris.
Yeah, definitely. And so far, the interesting thing is if you look at Zealots and the history with Greymane in HGC Europe, so far in 2018, not really a love story. 4 wins and 8 losses, and now they've already picked him twice, took him down. Stop smirking.
A love story. You love your heroes more if you win more with them. Is that what you're saying?
That's
I mean,
pretty
I do.
much
80% win rate. I'm in love with this hero.
Okay,
Absolutely.
like,
Beautiful.
That was definitely a better joke than the Swedish fish thing. Which, by the way, during the break I looked up. It actually exists. So I
didn't
I
pull that out of
believe-
thin air. Yeah.
I believe you. I just didn't know what it was.
You see, that's the difference between the two. I don't believe him because like he has some weird thought
I
process.
know.
If he's on coffee, if he's
I
on
watch
caffeine,
videos sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
when he talks about lava wave and stuff, I mean, you can't believe that. Bro.
And then you watch him win, you're like, wait a minute, maybe he's onto something, and then you never try it yourself.
Okay, you have to bring me Swedish fish next time.
Maybe. They're pretty good. Claris actually really loves that
Ooh,
food.
I am really happy about this Rhaegar pick, by the way. So it looks like Method are not falling into the same trap that Liquid went into over and over, where Zealots clearly has a single target stun chain burst lineup. You need something to save that target they're going to go on, and Rhaegar is one of the great ones.
I like it too. I think Rhaegar for NA is pretty unpopular, right? That's what we've seen at least in part 1, and that's one of the things that always baffles me. Can you explain why? Because in Europe we still have a different priority on a lot of the supports, Malfurion and Stukov being all the way up there, but Rhaegar has always been the fallback option. Whenever you need a cleanse, whenever you need a burst heal, it's always the toss-up between Uther and Rhaegar, and we have some teams that highly prioritize Rhaegar throughout part 1.
After the Rhaegar wave clear nerf, it just kind of fell out of existence, and I think Western Clash did not help at all because Shad popularized Stukov, and while Zealots understands exactly how Stukov works, most of the other teams don't fully understand it. So Rhaegar, you know, not only after the nerfs was he unpopular, but another support overshined him. So I would say that's why we don't see much play.
Okay, fair enough.
ADRD Junkrat coming in here for the final pickup for Zealots. What do you think about that Junkrat on this battleground? Wave clear usually is not something you need, but displacement is always a strong tool.
I think Junkrat is overall a good hero. He's very underrated, and I feel like he's similar to Greymane, where he's just going to be reliable no matter what. Good auto attack damage, good poke damage, good poke range, and good wave clear. He's just kind of jack of all trades.
Zealots have actually never won with Junkrat. So they played only 2 games with him, and now this is like the 3rd time, and in league play they have not found a single win yet. But with the setup that they have here, they have, again, I feel a pretty cool tool also against Garrosh once again. You have the displacement, that's first of all important. You're already playing with the Nuburak. You have that Blaze and Malfurion setup. So there's a lot of tools for them where they can first of all burn down an Immortal pretty quickly, where they can engage heavily into the opponent's backline around the Cocoon, and they have displacement or escapes if there is actually a flip that happens or a tether coming through.
And whenever that Maiev Warden's case comes down, naturally the opposing team's going to group up a little bit. Riptide or something becomes a little bit stronger there for the area damage. Let's go into it, man. For game number 3, we're all tied up 1-1. Who will pull ahead, Method or Zealots?
Game number 3, let's go and find out. Battlefield of Eternity, and we have to the left, Method, with a lot of race potential on these Immortals with the lineup that they drafted here. Arcana on Garrosh, we have Aethero Angel on Maiev, Curson on Rhaegar, Schwimpy on Sonya, and Nick on Hanzo.
On the right side in the red, Chris playing Greymane, Chad on Malfurion, Mopsio on Nubarak, Zarmani to play Blaze, and ADRD. Gonna be showing off the Junkrat. We'll see if they can get the first win here.
Really curious how this is going to go now, because we are currently looking at a setup in which we're having a massive amount of race potential for Method, especially around Rhaegar, Sonya, and Hanzo. But then at the same time, when you're looking towards the Zealots, they have the Greymane factor, and they, in the previous games on this map, have heavily focused on teamfights and getting kills. They really understand the map quite well, and it's one of the reasons why it is their most popular battleground. They picked this map now 14 times, including them picking it now, and they have 10 wins and 4 losses. An insane track record here, and yeah, the best map by far. If Method can take them down here, that would be a huge, huge bonus for the team in blue.
The team just really seems to understand their game plan and always in a crisp manner clear it out. Mopsio gets tossed here, still has the burrow charge to be able to get out. Zarmi turns around, gets some damage in as well with the help of Chris, but Method looking pretty healthy here. Curson bringing in just enough healing there, and with Sonya on that front line, they were able to clear out the push from Zealots.
And currently we have Aethero holding the solo lane. Now with Maiev, that's really interesting, because you can hold the solo lane with Maiev, but ideally you always want to have a bit of help there. And as we are seeing heavy rotations, it's actually an interesting setup because we have Maiev at the bot lane, we have Sonya at the top lane, and then we have 3 heroes that rotate depending on what's going on there, trying to see if they can pick up some kills and also, in this case, now aiming for camps. So Method definitely with a really flexible setup. And the lane pressure alone that he could get to these camp rotations is actually pretty significant.
Especially with Rhaegar, man. Rhaegar is so helpful, helping clear those lanes. Now, of course, we were talking about that wave clear nerf that happened a few patches ago, but Rhaegar's still pretty solid, especially with the help of your teammates there. Sonya, also in that top lane, should be able to clear out the push coming in from Zealots. So we'll see how Method is able to continue rotating and see if they can find a poke or even a pick here as Arcaner comes in and looks at Zarmany. Jet Propulsion immediately out. Zarmany playing wise and making sure to safely get away.
I mean, there's a lot of mind games going on here, and a lot where teams are just trying to get an advantage through rotations and then getting a quick pick here. So they play a lot with vision. You can see that when you look at the minimap. Just these continuous moves where someone is trying to hide in one of those bushes, where rotation happens from the bot to the top and vice versa. It's actually a pretty cool and fluid setup that we have for the early game here. So far, it hasn't impacted the flow of the game too much. We don't see a team with a kill yet and not too much of an advantage. But it's definitely a heavily focused game on the rotations and also mercenaries, as we see both of them now grabbing the shaman camps.
On an early stage, too. Typically, you see those grabbed around 230, 245, but giving it a little bit early here can help out with a push. But also, if your opponent goes in to defend it and they don't put enough resources there, that's where you can see that pick. Zealots even wanting to aggressively jump on their opponents here and try and get a pick off. Couldn't find anything there. Ooh, a little bit of a lag. Looks like we're just fine, though.
Yeah, everything's working out quite nicely so far, despite that bit of a hiccup that we had there. But we have now the defense set up at the top. And once again, the same situation. Mopsio gets flipped, gets immediately targeted, but he counter attacks and goes for Sonya.
Wow.
That was actually insanely well done. It was crazy good. So they flip an Uberak, trying to put him in an awkward spot, and instead of just trying to get out of there, Mopsio says, wait a moment, I'm actually in range of Sonya, let's turn this around and take her down.
Using your opponent's engage for your own engage. Mopsio finding that moment, and it will give Zealots a pretty decent amount of damage here on the Immortal as they clear that out. Zealots were able to burn it down to the halftime show, but Method, they did decent as well. Hanzo, you can't forget about them, that level 4 talent coming online, helping them clear out pretty well.
Yeah, so it's more or less a 50-50 that we're seeing now. And this is where the poke is going to start and kick in again. And poke damage is definitely slightly better through Hanzo when we're talking about who's gonna win the race. But here comes the engage again. Arcana already low, needs to be careful. And we immediately have the totem on the ground. Here comes the displacement through Junkrat as we see Zealots taking the defensive position on their own Immortal.
Yeah, they're playing it slow here, playing it careful, setting up for the defense. Greymane finally peeling over, and he'll be able to start shredding that Immortal. Yeah. Sonya being in the top lane had to push back that wave, but Method now has to step up and either A, win a team fight, or B, clear out this Immortal. They're going for the team fight. They go in. Ethereal gets ADRD low. ADRD is able to get away while Chris continues to shell away. It's going to be a close one here between our teams. Who's going to get the victory with 135 health? Zealots are able to win.
Zealots get it, and also ADRD survives, but that is actually pretty big for them, since they already have a slight lead in experience. It's nothing too crazy, but it is definitely going to be emphasized through the pressure the Immortal will put onto the bot lane now. So they have a really good chance of getting an early level 7 and maybe even snowballing towards 10 if they are able to pick up a kill here too.
Mopsio's in the front line, they're waiting for ADRD to show up. Mopsio gets tossed though, and Arcaner with the help of Ethereal and Nick delete him quickly. Junkrat finally shows up, but that makes defense much easier here for Method.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we still have the concussion grenade here for ADRD, but he's not going to get too much out of that. Defense is easy after Nubarak is taken down. And it was a beautiful kill for Method. So well done by Arcana at the front line. Getting the perfect engage here against the Nubarak, getting the stun through, and this time there was just nothing to save a noob. Zealots still hold on to a slight experience lead, also through Zarmany, just like making sure that at the top lane the 2 turrets are taken down. Zealots snuck to the top, outside of the vision of Shrimpy, and make no sure that they get another camp. But the same has also happened at the bot lane, where Method took the other Khazra camp.
There's a gank here on Ethereal. Ethereal hasn't used his vault yet, but watch out on the left. There's that mine there available, so Ethereal has to be careful and mindful of that when he goes for the escape. Okay, he's going to back up, realizing that Zealots are missing. We've had a lot of mind games, a lot of aggression between our teams, so got to play it safe.
This is an interesting one. 2 kills so far in the game. I mean, the series is tight. This is the 3rd one, so one of the teams is going to end up with that advantage. But Zealots, they really had a big problem with Mob Cylinder falling there after they confirmed the original Immortal. But now we're also heading slowly into level 10 abilities. Here came the Concussion Grenade and the displacement, but Nick is able to move out. And even with Mopsio trying to go in for a second engage, wasn't quite enough to put pressure enough on Hanzo to confirm a kill here.
That was such a scary moment, though. Nick reacting well, jumping straight to his teammate, making sure he is fine. Mopsio attempted to follow up and get that kill, but a little bit too far. Now, level 7 has hit. So we're on our way to level 8 already. Actually, we are level 8. But level 7 coming on for Hanzo is going to help out with that clear. But don't forget about Sonya, man. At level 7, that Poison Spear. Very helpful for finding kills.
Yeah, camp is also about to be taken again. And this one is actually lining up absolutely perfectly for the Zealots. Whereas on the side of Method, it's a bit late right now. So they're not making the rotation. They're actually just starting to go into the middle to take a position here. And maybe even trap some of the Zealots as they are rotating in. But everyone is taking the safe path. In particular, ADRD on his Junkrat. Only Mopsio checking this out, trying to go immediately for Arcana. Body blocking here as well, forces him to take the path around the right. And there's the stun. This could be the end of Garrosh. And indeed it is. Zealots having the camp pushing through the top lane, forcing Sonya to defend. And now getting the kill so they can get ahead and get a head start in the Immortal race.
Method attempting to get level 10 while Zealots are right away from grabbing it. They're even getting a little bit aggressive on the Immortal and start to clear it out quickly. While 2 members set for defense, they have to always respect that Hanzo and that poke damage, so they bring 3 down. ADRD throwing out a couple mines too, just to displace long enough, while Chris continues to shred away. Now Method will have a wave in the bottom lane, as well in the top here to soak, so while the halftime show should connect here and be in the favor of Zealots, Method will be able to fight back with level 10.
And they're rotating top. They're trying to go for Schwimpy. Here comes the jet propulsion, and the second stun is also true as we see Zarmony engaging. He gets the stun. There's the root follow-up. Perfect sync on the CC, and that's another kill confirmed. Zealots 3 kills against 1. They have their level 10, and they can now easily go straight for the Immortal and force a fight here. Method thinking about defending, but they don't have heroics yet.
That's a way to make sure that your opponents do not fight on the halftime show. Don't allow them to get level 10 and take out their top laner. With Method being in a 5v4, they are trying to poke as safe as they can, but Zealots take this time to build out this Immortal damage. Jet Propulsion comes out, stunning Ethereal. Riptire also popping forward as ADRD is looking to get some damage in. Nick does a really good job, though, of attacking and making sure that Riptire falls victim to them.
Good zoning, though, and now another Immortal for the Zealots, and they're already looking to get another kill. Ethereal, on the other hand, with a tether. Arcana moves in, he wants to flip, but he doesn't get it as Chris moves out. Bunker on the ground, and we have, again, a quick burst against it. Zarmony is being pressured back into the cage, though, and that's a massive problem here for Blaze. No bunker available, and the kill is there again as the Immortal comes down. Method does it once more.
Chris trying to come in for a flank, a good protection from Method, make sure that Chris is not able to get that damage, but that's the thing, the Immortal is here, as you just mentioned, allowing for Zealots to have this bottom lane pushed in and maybe trying to get this fort. Method, however, has a 5-man defense, and they will clear this puppy out quickly. Zealots run to the top lane and attempt to grab that fort instead.
I mean, at this point, if you're a Zealots, you are just going to be super annoyed by this. The second Immortal you get, and every time the Immortal comes down, you lose one of your heroes, and you're not able to get full value out of it. Now they still get some. They move to the top and they take the fort down, and they can push this even heavier. Method is trying to get counter pressure and counter damage at the bot lane, which is definitely going to work out. They're going to get the structure, but Zealots of course didn't stop at the fort at the top lane. They moved straight in and started to now take also the wall down. Method has to be back. They're playing with vision again. Zealots don't quite know how many of them are going to head back, so they're just taking one tower, and then they start retreating. You
can't forget about a Greymane in Worgenfor, man. He will shred down structures if left uncontested. Method backs up, and they finally defend that wave that was coming in this top left. Arrow comes out. Method are trying to force a fight, but it whisks as Chris and crew take away the Mercamp.
Yeah, the Arrow was actually headed for the camp and not for Anubarak, but they were already done with it, so that didn't hit anything. So big cooldown used here. Second or two earlier, and there's a good chance that they would have connected with 3, and then they could have collapsed onto them. But right now, Zealots in the lead again. Those few structures have done the trick. Now they are closing in on 13, and that's the extra talent that they want for the next Immortal phase.
13 around the corner, as you mentioned. Zealots bringing in all 5 down to the bottom lane, while Method, once again, has to leave someone in the top. That's that Sonya, trying to clear out that lane, the Merc pressure coming in, as Zealots take every small advantage they can. But this is going to be the first time it looks like where Method should be able to walk in this Mortal phase without a dead target. And I say that, Ethereal gets engaged upon here with the MPL. He's going to be able to vault and back up just in time.
Yeah. By the way, throughout this entire run in the playoffs, we're now on the 9th game. And in 7 of those 9 games, the Zealots played Blaze. They really love to put Zarmony on that hero now. So they have a massive, massive involvement rate on Blaze when it comes to their playoff matches. So that's definitely something that at some point Method might even try to think about maybe picking it away, or I'm not quite sure if it really warrants an early ban, but an early pick against Blaze might be something that they would consider here.
Harmony just playing really safe on the Blaze. Got caught off in that last team fight, but a good Warden's Cage was the reason for that fall. Zealots moving for the Immortal race and pretty close between our two teams. Gonna have Method take a nice little lead here, a good 2k health points. Another engage. Bunker comes out immediately. Zarma gets locked down here inside the Warden's Cage that pops out, but Mopsio popping out and drops a Cocoon on Rhaegar.
Cocoon is in, and here comes the Riptide. They're starting to go straight for Arcana again, and he's already suffering. The stun's coming out. Chad is low. Dodges with the Ice Bomb. Prevents it, at least for now, but he goes down. The Ancestral is true, and that's all that Method needs to turn this around. Once again, on the chase here against Zarmany, and they are going to get him. A double kill for Method on the 13 talent as they are collapsing onto the Immortal, trying to take the first objective for themselves in this game.
Method absolutely showcasing the importance it is for our Riptire. If the Riptire goes off in that fight, Method would have taken massive damage and probably lost a victim, or at least gotten picked off there. But them all turning around and clearing it up allows for them to stay put, turn around and help Rhaegar out, and then gets them 2 kills on an Immortal.
Extremely well done by Method, and now of course it's time to pressure. It's time to go through that top lane, and they are in the 5-man position right now. They already have a level lead, and that's even without the Immortal. They're bursting through the wall, and they're going straight for the fort itself. Ethereal already attempting to go a bit deeper and see if he can maybe get hold of Greymane or Anubarak. Not quite happening for them, but the fort is down, and of course they want more here. They want to go at least through that wall and ideally pressure the keep.
This could be a keep. ADRD is going to do his best here to clear it out, but with that shield being there, if anyone falls victim on the side of Zealous, Method will definitely keep pushing forward for that keep. Method continues to chunk where they can, clearing out the waves and trying to protect that Immortal as much as they can. Now look at Shwimpy on the bottom left here. He's willing to come in if Zealous try to force a fight and stop them from being an effective kill there with Greymane.
Opening the wall here already, and the shields are just now down on the Immortal. It's definitely going to threaten this keep, and 16 is so close for Method. They just need a little bit more experience, and they have the talent advantage. Riptide comes out, trying to zone, will try and get the damage in here too, as the commitment is already happening. Arcana is at the front here, but the damage against Ethereal, not enough. Vault of the Wardens has been used, and here comes the flip. The taunt is there, and barely Anubarak able to move out, just barely surviving. Ethereal was trying to go for the quick chase, drops the Warden's Cage. Again, the Ancestral keeping Maiev alive. Silence wasn't enough either, and this keep is nearly down. They need one poke, and then they are going to take it down. And they finally accomplished that. The 16 talent is also in their hands, and that's an opportunity to maybe even get a kill.
Hanzo gets saved there by Arcana. He's going to be able to toss him away there, getting that effective clearance to pull him away from the root. And Zealots do not defend their keep. They try to get a couple of kills, but Method just playing well enough here to get a talent advantage and escape.
At this point, you want to head down to the bot lane, maybe even able to save that fort. Now, the fort is really low, but there's a double wave that has built up for the Zealots. But Sonya is already on her way, and we'll actually save this for a bit more. Now, this fort is going to fall eventually and drop some XP into the hands of the Zealots. But taking the keep at the top lane was, of course, just a big thing. Now we're going to see the timer in every big fight around the Immortal whenever Zealots fight as a 5-man. They will have to occasionally split heroes to the top lane to defeat the catapults, and that's not going to be easy. It's one of the reasons why they're now taking both of their camps through the top lane and try to push it out as quickly as they can.
Zealots really reading the map well. Even being behind full level, being behind on a talent, they make sure to take these mercenary camps, put pressure on Method, make Method be reactive, even though they have the advantage here in terms of talents. It's a clever play from Zealots and showing why they're so strong on this battleground. They're going to take this time here to get top lane pushed in so they can look towards grabbing this fort in this bottom left. You mentioned that experience. Pretty pivotal to get 16 before the Immortal phase.
And again, if Method takes the win on Battlefield of Eternity, they themselves still have a couple of strong maps they can take against Zealots. One of them is, for example, Tomb of the Spider Queen, where Method has 6 wins and 2 losses. It's a really good map for them, and Method has been pretty flimsy on that map. 9 games themselves, so they played a lot, but they have only found 4 wins. So Method would be in just such a fantastic spot if they can get a victory on Zealot's best map here. But the Zealots now have their 16 talent and can fight on even talents again.
Oh, speaking about hitting the spots there, Hanzo come in there and nailing those arrows, taking down the Immortal, burning it down to a halftime show. Method well in the lead here and are looking to clear out the Immortal phase. Now it is going to be defensive Immortal phases here. Good spawn for Zealots, but don't forget, bottom lane's pushing in with the Merc camp, but top lane as well. A total of 3 catapults are there. Zealots are on a clock.
Yeah, and that's a problem. 3 catapults, that's actually a lot of damage that's going to come through if they don't make anything happen in time. They need either to rotate someone, but they can't because the Immortal is already down to half health. or they need to force a fight. But both are really awkward options for them. They're trying to go for a defensive position, and Zomany will rotate to the top because the fourth catapult is now moving in. But that should trigger an attack of Method and an attempt to go for the Immortal.
They do. They pop in here, drop in a couple of zeros, and don't forget that piercing arrows coming in too makes it harder for Zealots to defend. They have to spread out, make sure not to get connected with here, instead of just trying to block the shots like you normally would against a Hanzo.
Yeah, Nick is getting the damage in right now the entire time. Zomany has done his job and is starting to move back up with the rest of the team, but we already have that Immortal down to 6,000 hit points, and that's just nothing. Method in the fantastic spot. Here comes Arcana, trying to make sure that Zomany does not get that flank that he was attempting to set up here.
Arrows available for Nick. At any point, you can turn this around and force a fight. Ethereal with the tether. He's going to have to go ahead and drop away, just barely teleporting. Zomany goes in for a jet propulsion to chase him down, but does not connect.
Camp at the bot lane is also starting to threaten the second keep. That's a massive wave. Zealots are pressured on every lane. At the top, we have 2 catapults building up again and pressuring towards the core. At the bottom lane, it's the keep that's in danger, and the fight isn't going too well either for the Zealots. They have to move back. Mobsio is low. They need to give up the Immortal here. This is a disaster. The catapults are on the core and the keep is about to fall, and Blaze dies in the middle. This is just complete disaster for the Zealots this late in the game.
Arcana with the easy engage. And speaking of engage, here comes the Dragon Arrow into the Warden's cage. That's going to be a Mobsio. Next is going to be a Shad. He can't even get the silence off. The rest of Method turns around and clears out that Immortal.
The shields are falling on the core. The keep at the bot lane is about to die, and this has to be game. Method is moving in here mercilessly. They can wait for the Immortal as well, but they're already jumping in as only 2 heroes can defend here. Greyman and Junkrat, the only survivors of that slaughter that we just saw a few seconds earlier. 7 kills against 3 in total as we see Method going for the victory, taking the 2-1 lead against the Zealots here at the HGC playoffs.
And it's on the Zealots' best battleground too. Method able to shut them down, having a solid team fight in the mid game, controlling the lanes in the late game, and finally winning that Immortal. Method going up 2-1 over the Zealots. Method was able to